Did you know that in order for you to reach your full financial potential, 70% of the game is dependent on what you do? Successful people do strategic things every day for their whole lives. And in this video, I will share with you these 6 must-know principles of money. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button and that little notification bell icon so you don't miss out on any of our video updates. Plus, it helps us spread the Thrive Wise love to help more people thrive wisely. Now, let's begin. Let me share with you these 6 principles through the story of my friend Dave. These rules were so effective that he quit his 9-to-5 job to follow his dream of going around the world. This is Dave. He is 38 years old and works as a data entry clerk at an average IT company in California. He used to work there, but he quit a few weeks ago. Here's a little flashback. 10 years ago, Dave came to work every working day, punching the clock. Yes, he had a job, and no, it wasn't clock boxing if you were wondering. But what's confusing is how he hated going to work. Dave would keep track of the days until he could retire. Dave wasn't really good with his money, so it seems unlikely that he would retire at any age. One usual day, Dave went to work and a new co-worker named Kirk was there. Kirk was in his 50s and had white hair. He always seemed to have a smile on his face when he was out and about. Kirk was hired by the company as a consultant computer engineer. He was sitting alone in the lunchroom that day when Dave walked by. Dave kept wondering why the man looked so happy, but it didn't bother him that much, so he left Kirk to eat alone every day that week. In those 7 days, Dave noticed that there was not a single day when Kirk ate his lunch without a big smile on his face, even though he was alone. So, the following week, Dave finally got up the courage to ask Kirk what was making him so happy. Dave sat down across Kirk's table and reintroduced himself. He also said that he didn't understand why Kirk was always smiling even though he eats his lunch alone. Kirk laughed and said that there are lots of reasons to be happy. Dave didn't like the short answer, so he asked him to go a little more into detail. He opened up and started telling Kirk how hard it is for him to go to work every day and how boring his job is as a data entry clerk can be. Kirk nodded and began to empathize with Dave. He then started to open up to Dave and told him that he learned how to be a computer engineer after he retired many years ago. Dave was confused as he sat there, wondering how Kirk could have already retired and gone back to school to learn computer engineering. Dave became invested with Kirk's story, so he wanted him to tell him more. Kirk told Dave that he had retired at age 40, spent a few years traveling, and then finished his computer science degree. Kirk could tell that Dave really liked his story, but he admitted that when he was younger, he was just like Dave. He told Dave that he used to be a stockbroker in New York City and that even though he made a lot of money, he really hated going to work. Dave was very interested in what Kirk had to say and asked him how he was able to retire at such a young age. Then Kirk said something that would forever change Dave's life. He said, "I learned the 6 must-know principles of money and applied it in my life." Kirk said that he didn't usually tell people this kind of information, but since Dave was the only person to sit with him at lunch all week, he was happy to share it with him, and Dave agreed, and Kirk started with the first principle. Principle number 1. Pay yourself first. Kirk said that a lot of people want to save money but never get around to it. 1 in 6 people who took part in a survey in 2017 said that they just hadn't had the time to set up a savings plan. Kirk said that even if you try to save money, you may have to pay for things you didn't expect. If you don't know how much you want to save, you won't know how much you can spend. Kirk said that more than 60% of Americans don't make a budget plan, which makes it hard for them to save money. Because of this lack of financial monitoring, add to it the low wages, more than 3/4 of the world's population workers in the US are striving to live from paycheck to paycheck. This leaves them with little to no savings. Kirk said that he used to be one of these people until he learned a few simple tips. The first tip was a method called the 20-30-50. The 20-30-50 method works like this. Each month, you split your income into the following 3 parts. 50% is set aside for living costs such as rent, utilities, and food. The next 30% goes to entertainment and leisure spendings like eating out or going to the movies. The last 20% should go directly into your savings account. Kirk said that setting aside some of his money before the month began helped him figure out how much he could save. But some months he spent some of that money and saved less than he had planned, so he was able to learn the second tip. The second tip was how to set up automatic deductions. This is how it works. Every 2 weeks, a part of your paycheck goes straight into your savings account instead of it all going into your checking account. Dave was amazed and said that you cannot spend if you put money into an account you cannot access. Kirk said that it is exactly the point of this tip. It helps him save a lot of money over the course of his career as a stockbroker. Principle number 2. You won't get rich by saving money. Kirk seemed to be a big fan of saving money, but he later told Dave that it's not enough to save money to get rich. Kirk said that saving money isn't a good idea because it doesn't grow. The interest on the average savings account is only 0.9%. That means if you put $100,000 in your savings account, you would only get $90 back after a year. And there's still inflation. Kirk said that after you got that return, you would have lost money because 2% would be for inflation. So instead of saving, Kirk shared that investment would be a better option. He said that he was fortunate to have learned at a young age how powerful compound interest was. From 18 to 40 years old, during his retirement, he put away $250 every week for investments. During that 22-year period, he got an average return of 10%, which gave him more than $1 million at age 40. Of that amount, $750,000 came from compound interest he had earned. In fact, Kirk still lives off of the same lump of money after all these years. But he's still only able to do this because he's smart about how he spends his money. Principle number 3. Do not spend more than what you can afford. Kirk said that even though this principle is self-explanatory, millions of people still find it hard to follow. You see, we live in a materialistic world where many people are more worried about getting a new iPhone than saving for retirement. These kinds of short-sighted decisions often lead people to spending much more than what they earn. In reality, if you want to be financially free, you have to spend less than you earn and save the difference. Putting this money away gives you all the benefits that come with having money in the bank. First of all, setting aside a lump sum of money can give you a peace of mind that you can handle any financial problems that come your way. You can also use that money to start a business that, once it starts making money, could double or triple your income. Better yet, if you invest that money wisely and save up enough money, you can quit your job early like Kirk did. But don't forget to turn in that resignation letter. Before we go down to the last 3 principles, we hope you didn't forget to jot down the first 3 ones. It may come in handy as you also want to be better with your money. Or if you don't have a pen and paper with you, you can share this video with your friends and family and you can ask one of them to jot down the notes as you learn together. So, going back. Principle number 4. Set up an emergency fund. It may sound boring, but Kirk said that having an emergency fund is one of the most important things you can do for your financial health. Kirk told Dave that he needed to set up a cash emergency fund as soon as possible if he didn't already have one. Kirk had just said that putting money in a savings account wasn't the best way to make it grow, but he said it was fine to keep money in a checking or savings account. Kirk could tell that Dave wasn't too excited about this money roll. So he told Dave how important it was to have an emergency fund. Kirk said that his wife got very sick 20 years ago and had to stay in the hospital for 3 whole months. Kirk didn't know if she would be able to get any better from her illness, so he took time off work to be with her in the hospital every day. He said that she was lucky to pull through and get better, but in her time of need, having an emergency fund was very important. So Kirk told Dave to save up at least a year's worth of living costs in case he had an emergency of his own to deal with. Principle number 5. Be wise when using debt. Kirk went on to say one way to get rich is to stop feeding money to banks and credit card companies. Some purchases like buying a house or paying for college are hard to make without going into debt. However, both student loans and mortgage debts are usually considered good debt, because buying a house and going to college can increase your net worth in the long run. Kirk said that other assets don't go up in value, so if you borrow money to buy them, you lose twice: interest plus loss of value or depreciation. Kirk said that even though he liked up-to-date phones, A cell phone is one of the worst things you can go into debt for because it loses value quickly and interest can be expensive. Kirk said that as a general rule, you should try to pay for cash for any asset that loses value over time like your gadgets. And if you can't pay cash, either wait until you can or buy a less expensive phone. Principle number 6. Money can't buy happiness. After going over the 5 principles, Dave said that he couldn't wait to use them to get rich and buy all of the things he always wanted. Kirk laughed because he knew that Dave didn't know the truth about money. Kirk told Dave that money can't buy happiness unless it's used in the right way. Kirk wanted to make this point clear by first showing how spending money doesn't always make people happier. People often buy things that they think will make them happy. They have to have the most up-to-date phone or clothes. Yes, it is fun and makes us happy to spend money, but the question is, for how long? Kirk highlighted that believing, quote-unquote, material things can buy you happiness can get you in a dangerous cycle. It will start with you buying the product after feeling that rush of excitement, then impulsively buying, then lastly the rush ends and the cycle continues. So instead, Kirk explained this in another perspective. For example, gifting your parents a brand new car. Seeing them use that car will give you happiness that would not only last for a season, but for a lifetime. Traveling is also a good option as it will give you opportunities to create memories that you would surely treasure. David seemed to agree with this because he said, "Indeed, you can buy happiness with money, but only if you spend it right." After that talk, Dave walked away with a fresher and bolder perspective. He realized that to get to his dream of traveling around the world, being financially free is a good way to get started. And the way to get this done is to apply the 6 principles he just learned from Kirk. And of course, handing over that signed envelope to his boss, which he called his ticket to finally reaching his dreams. We hope you learned something new from this video. And if you have already applied these 6 principles of money, we'd love to hear how things turned out for you. Feel free to comment it down below. Click the subscribe button to see more videos on how to thrive wisely. Till next time.